All right. So Courtney, when did you actually get into the real estate business?
So I have technically been in the real estate space since 2015.
When you were how old?
I had just graduated from high school.
Okay.
So I was starting as an admin for my aunt. She had not had a team at that time. It was just her. And then in that process, she had a business partner. They needed extra help, and I needed a summer job before I started my NAU experience. And so I had a lot of exposure early on. And like I said, just doing a lot of admin tasks. I wasn't licensed at that time, so I was limited to what I could do, but I would tag along to open houses, showings. I got to see all this paperwork. I got to see like the ins and outs of how everything worked.
We're obviously sitting here today because you have grown a very successful career. And it's really exciting. We've been in business together for just a couple of years now, and it's really cool. Even before we got into business, I admired your presence online, and I think what you're building is really, really special. And we'll talk about that. But like, what did you learn during those early years as an admin that actually drew you closer to the business versus, I think sometimes you can get in and think real estate's one thing, experience that side of the business and just be like, whoa, no, I don't. So what drew you in further?
Yeah. So I would say exactly what you just said. I feel like a lot of people think that real estate is very, very glamorous and it's easy and you can just make money quick. So every single time I have a new agent come to me and say like, what would your advice be? My advice always is shadow somebody while you're getting your license, because I think it was that exposure that I had before that made me realize like, you have to work your butt off to get anywhere in this business. And seeing my aunt build what she has, it only drove me closer. And like, I wanted that. She also has always been a huge mentor in my life, her and her husband, my uncle. They have always been the ones that have pushed me like past my limits of, hey, you should go to college. You have this opportunity too. I had a full tuition scholarship to NAU, and they were huge proponents of pushing me to go, also holding me accountable to maintain that scholarship. But yeah, I would say like it's the mentorship.
How did your aunt and uncle become such critical role models in your life?
I have always been very, very close with them. I think actually the first showing that Emily took me on was like while she was babysitting me.
Really?
I probably was.
I've always known she's such an entrepreneur, double dipping there, like babysitting and.
Oh yeah. And then I quickly became the babysitter for her children. So the balance is there, and now her kids will babysit mine.
Perfect. It's just a circle of life.
But yeah, I think I was probably like 9 or 10 the first time she took me on a showing with her. Wow. And I thought I was the coolest person in the world. Like we went to her favorite coffee shop before, which I still go to till this day. And yeah, it was the coolest thing to me. So it was from a very early stage that I looked up to them, and she has told me time and time again, she shares with me what she wishes she knew at my age or when she started helping me. So it was from very early on that I've always been super, super close with them. I love seeing what they do. And yeah, they've helped me and my husband through a ton of what we've done.
That's really, really special to have mentors in your life like that. Yeah. And not just mentors on a personal level, but also the fact that you guys have worked and grown something special together now in the business. So you start off as an admin, and then how long was it until you actually got your license and decided that you wanted to be more customer facing and, sales focused? Mm-hmm. What did that look like?
So every summer I was at NAU, I would come back and I would do admin stuff for them. It wasn't actually until 2021 that I got my license.
Okay.
So between that time, I went to college, got my degree.
What's your degree in?
It's in marketing with an emphasis in professional sales.
Okay.
So that's something that I will put a little plug to NAU for. It's a very unique program that they have. I knew I didn't want to do back of house marketing. I wanted to do front of house. For
those who might not be familiar with what that even means, like describe the difference. What's front of house versus
front of house? I feel like is exactly what it sounds like. It's face-to-face sales, like professional sales of it all. I feel like a lot of marketing programs are the behind, like exactly what you think of when you think of marketing. It's the behind the scenes social media or SEO, and a lot of like the keyword lingo was just coming around when I was in college. And so a lot of people were leaning into that, and they had this professional sales program. And I was like, this sounds like exactly where I want to be, because I had already been exposed to real estate. I knew I wanted to be in sales, and going to like career fairs in college, you have the typical companies, which no knock to them, but I knew I wanted to be in sales that mattered. And that's what I always felt like I got from real estate, being a part of somebody's chapter of buying a home or buying a second home, getting into investing and things like that. Like it spoke to me. So also thanks to my aunt, she introduced me to a sorority or very early on. Okay. I think I was a sophomore in high school when she took me to my first Alpha Phi event. Okay. And it was actually at NAU. It was their very first philanthropy gala. And I was like, this is so cool. I was immediately locked in, not even knowing that I was going to end up at NAU. Then I end up at NAU. I go through recruitment. I become an Alpha Phi and fully leaned into it. I was involved in leadership. I was chapter president as a sophomore, which was insane.
Kind of unheard of, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. I think I might still be like the youngest one from that chapter. But yeah, so that was a crazy thing that happened, and I loved every minute of it. It made my college experience and gave me my first post-grad job.
Which was?
I was a travel consultant for our international headquarters. Okay. So this was a dream job for me because I always met our consultants when they visited, and I would pick their brains. I just thought they had the coolest job ever. I mean, you're basically living out of your suitcase for 9 months.
Okay. So that's a draw to a very unique person.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And you get the opportunity to go to all these colleges, meet collegians, volunteers, and you get to tap into this network that they tell you when they're interviewing you. It's a very tedious process to interview for, but they tell you that this job will change your life. And it's true. I mean, I would have continued working for Alpha Phi for the rest of my life if I could have. But it's a nonprofit, so the opportunity for income growth is a little slim. And but the opportunities that it's continued to give me have been absolutely priceless. I literally just got back from our biannual convention this past weekend. So I'm still very, very involved. I volunteer, and I've had the opportunity to buy and sell a bunch of houses with Alpha Phis. So
it sounds like even before you really get into real estate sales as a full-time career, you have this insanely awesome foundation of seeing the business from the inside as you're still pretty young, but a young child to this amazing forward-facing marketing degree, and we'll talk about marketing a lot because I think it's an area where it's clear you've taken some of your marketing skills and put it into your business. And then also the networking aspect from the sorority. I mean, you really have this like threefold value that's already been baked into you as you get into your real estate career. So you finally end up getting licensed 2021. Yep. And
It was during COVID. I literally took my classes while I had COVID.
While you had COVID?
Yep.
Impressive.
Yep, because that was when you couldn't leave anywhere for 2 weeks. So I'm like, cool, I'll do the crash course. And I got them done.
Nice. Good work. So you go to that. And then that's a really interesting time to start your career because at that time, I remember I had moved out here in 2020. And the first marketing campaign I launched for our company was a campaign called You Are Essential. And we built off that whole like real estate agents are essential service workers, right?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to do that and while everyone's locked up at their house and you're trying to start a business. So what did that first year look like for you?
It was crazy. It was a whirlwind. I mean, thankfully I was on a team. That is one thing I will also always tell new agents is it's hard to do it on your own.
Yeah. Like
starting out. Either find a mentor or bonus, even better, join a team where you'll have access to a bunch of mentors. And yeah, I mean, I had a great business my first year. I technically started in April of 2021.
Okay.
But a lot of my business came from the team, which obviously very, very grateful for. I learned a lot. I mean, that was the time when you couldn't even put a sign in front of a house before it was spoken for.
Yeah.
So it gave me a lot of practice, speaking with other agents and looking at contracts, writing contracts, really diving into, hey, I need to make sure that I know what I'm talking about because I graduated from NAU in 2019 and then was licensed in 2021. So then, of course, the first thing everybody tells you to do is reach out to your sphere. And I knew that these people, they knew me and they loved me, but they didn't trust me to handle a huge transaction in their lives quite yet. And I got that because I literally had just purchased my first home. Matt and I did. Emily helped us. And that was a huge factor of like why I went and got my license right after.
Yep.
It opened my eyes up to, yes, I had exposure to the real estate industry. I didn't have exposure to what buying your first house looked like. And it opened my eyes up to a process that I wish we knew more about. A goal of mine has always been to create like an elective or small course for high school seniors on how to buy a house.
I love that.
Because, and I think that's the perfect age to start the conversation. They're about to go into college or not. And if they're not, they're probably going out and getting a job. And what better investment to make early on in your life than purchasing your first home?
Couldn't agree more. Let's make it happen. Let's figure it out. I want to pick up on something that you said because I'm curious your perspective. You said you had all these people that knew and liked you, but they didn't trust you yet. So how did you actually cultivate the trust aspect?
I made myself look as busy as I could.
Interesting.
I was going through a ton of training with my team and, working alongside my aunt. I was helping her with a lot of her transactions, and social media was not really something that I took seriously until about 6 months into my career.
Okay.
I grew up being very private, and it was really, really hard for me to push myself out of that comfort zone of putting myself on a public profile. I was always private. That had to do with, more family dynamics than anything. But I wasn't allowed to be on social media until I was probably in maybe middle of high school, approaching college.
So there's a whole mindset shift.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And there was a girl who used to be on our team. Her name's Maddie. I always shout her out when I'm talking about this because she was already in it. She was basically a full-fledged influencer.
Okay.
And I thought it was the coolest thing, but I was like, I'm not going to yuck your yum. Might be for you, but it's not for me. And she's like, get over your fears. You can do this. she forced me to go into a home and film things, and it was so uncomfortable. And she's just like, it's just something that you have to do. And I'm so glad that she told me that, because it's totally ingrained in my business now. And what I mean by I made myself look as busy as possible is because that's where people I knew would see me the most. And I would share everything that I was doing. And I have had so many people, it's like a domino effect. So many people come to me and say, you know, I see your social media and this is what you post about now. It's immediately what they relate me to.
You know, I hear you say that, Courtney, and it makes me like just think about like when you actually put yourself out there and you face the fear, growth happens. Like when growth doesn't happen in comfortable spaces, it happens in uncomfortable spaces. And when I think back to 2021 with the velocity of the market, one of two things was true. The market was going so fast. And if you've ever like stood next to a treadmill that's already moving, it is hard to jump onto that treadmill, right?
Without falling flat on your face.
Right. And so what happened was a lot of agents that I was exposed to just stayed on the sidelines. And those are the ones that aren't in the business anymore.
Yeah.
The other ones, though, they jumped on, maybe fell, but they grabbed the guardrails with their mentors and those people that were challenging them. And then they were able to stabilize themselves. And obviously, that's the path that you took. The other thing that I heard was that trust is cultivated by presence. And when you and I show up in people's lives consistently, even if we're just making ourselves seem busy, which you were still doing the work and getting the contract experience and all that. So you weren't like, I hate fake it till you make it. That's not what you were doing. But still you knew that if you were showing up in front of them, that it was going to build trust. Like, is that an accurate reflection?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you recently were honored as one of NAR's 30 under 30.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And the only, to my knowledge, not only the only person from any of my offices in the last 6 years that has been honored, but also I believe you're one of Keller Williams' only representatives this year.
Yeah. So I think it's been a few years since an Arizona resident has received it. And I actually think I saw a post that there were a few KW. So I think I'm one of 3.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we'll give them their kudos too then. Yeah. All right. Shoot. But regardless, I want to know, like, what have been the keys from getting you to, I want to appear as busy as possible, to being a recipient of such a prestigious award? And is it fair to ask, like, how old are you?
I'm going to be 30 in August. So I just barely
you just
got it.
squeaked in there. That's amazing. But such a short period of time. And it makes me think, I mean, basically 5 years you've been in the business.
Yeah.
And I will shut up and let you answer this in a second. But like, I just love that, because when I first got in the business too, like Gary Keller said, people overestimate what they can accomplish in a year and they underestimate what they can accomplish in 5 years. And then I always describe it as, because I was at Mega Camp. He didn't say that directly to me. He said that from a stage, right? And I'm 27, and it's like the spotlight went in like on me, and he was like locked in. He's like, you can be anywhere in this company in 5 years if you just do the right things. Yeah. And I was like, well, why not me? Like, I'm gonna do that. And so then I relate that to your story, and in 5 years, you have grown something extremely successful. So what were the keys to your success over the last 5 years?
I mean, I would say definitely being blessed with a fantastic mentor and sticking with her. I have been on the same team since I've started. I have no interest in leaving, so the recruiting calls can stop. Can
we park there for a second?
Sure.
Because that is like, for that to be the first thing to come to mind says something about you that is not true of many people. Why stay?
I have such a fantastic foundation where I'm at. Why would I complicate things? I've been part of our growth, which means a lot to me. I am loyal. Like, if you know me well, loyalty is where I'm at. And, you know, a lot of people say, oh, well, she's scared to leave because she works with her aunt. That's not true. If she felt like I could grow more somewhere, she would absolutely give me the key at the door and say, you go and do what you need to do.
Well, I think like the reason I want to park there is because so many people do operate from this mindset of, you know, I've gotten what I need from my team for 2, 3, 4 years. And then when we get really big for our britches, if I can use that, man, I sounded like my grandfather. And we run off and we attribute nothing back to the team.
Yeah.
And I hear it all the time. Like, oh, well, all of that was my business. And I even think of like what you were saying, like I got a lot of my business from the team. I think we have this amnesia around how we actually Does that make sense?
A lot of people pick up where they feel like they do a lot of the work. And something that I will never forget is my first year, I wouldn't have had a majority of my leads if it weren't for the team. And so I think that's where people get a little too in the weeds of it all is, well, I did all the work. And it's like, well, the relationship had to stem from somewhere. Yeah.
Well, it's funny. I was just talking with someone else in the organization about CAC, cost of customer acquisition and everything. And people don't realize that the most expensive piece of running any business is your cost of customer acquisition. It's generating that lead in the first place. And if more agents understood that, then I think there would be more of a recognition of, oh yeah, like that took a lot of time, energy, effort, and money for my team to generate that. Yeah. So I apologize for going down a tangent, but I think it's like to see someone with your success level have that as the first like key to success and make a declaration like I'm happy, I am blessed, and also seeing yourself as part of the growth of your group is, I think, something that a lot of agents can learn from. Yeah.
Yeah. I one thing that I love about my team is they don't put me into a shell. I can market myself however I want to. I'm not tied to my team's marketing, which I feel like has brought me out of my shell a little bit. And people don't necessarily attribute me to being the Duarte Real Estate Group. I am Courtney Weston, the Arizona Realtor, but I'm my own person. Yeah. And I love that about our team. And it's honestly something that other agents come to me and say, hey, you know, I know that you're on a team, but do they not make you put their marketing on everything? Do they not make you do this? Do they not make you do that? And I'm like, no, I'm my own person and I get to market myself however I want to. There's obviously strategy there, but I think it works. Because, you know, I mean, we have strategy meetings all the time as a team. And I actually used to do a lot on our team page. I'm to the point now where it's like my baby. I have to pass it off. But it's not something that I have the most time for anymore. And I know the power of social media. And if I can't put 100% into it, I'm not going to, continue.
So other than the mentorship and support system of the team and your aunt, what else has been crucial to your success over the last few years?
I think this is something that I've received a lot of positive feedback on is the fact that I come as I am, and I've been very open about what I've personally done in my own investor journey. My husband and I have purchased 4 homes in the last 5 years.
Congrats.
Thank you. Our first one, honestly, our first 3 are pretty much copy and paste the same. We had those being rentals in mind, and they were homes that we weren't in love with, but we knew we could turn around and rent. And we house hacked. Okay. We purchased all of these homes with a minimum down payment because they were our primary homes for a year. We lived in them for about a year each. And then we would move out, make it a rental, buy the next one.
Yep.
And my plan was to not have a baby until I was 30. But somebody had bigger plans for me, which I'm so thankful for. And, we ended up having kids a little bit sooner than my plans. And the house that we were in, so house number 3 was the house that I thought we were going to be in for a little bit. And then a child comes into play and the house just feels smaller and smaller and smaller. So we met with our incredible lender who we've used for all of our homes, Lizzie Hofer. She has also been another amazing mentor to me. Sat down with her, talked about what our options were, and it just seemed like the right thing to do. So we started looking, and this was the first time that we've ever house hunted, really looking at it as a family home and not
versus an investment.
Yeah, it was really, really special. We did remodeling to this house, which we've never done, and it tested our marriage in very many ways. But yeah, it's something that I love talking about, and I've been challenged to actually share more about, just strategy wise, because I am somebody who harps on practicing what I preach. And if I'm going to be responsible for guiding somebody on how to buy their first home, I want to be the reason why they choose an agent that is not only going to hand them keys on closing day, but I'm going to teach them everything I know.
So Courtney, I know that there's some people out there going like, all right, so you bought these homes, and let's be clear, you bought them, and when you moved, you're not selling them. So you have a portfolio right now of 3 investment properties and your primary home. I understand how you procured them, but talk to me a little bit about what are you learning as a landlord and an owner of 3 single family investment properties? Yep. So tell me about that a little bit.
Well, the first one was a lot harder to get than the second 2.
Which is that counterintuitive? Do you think most people think that?
Yeah. I mean, I also think there was the learning curve. Like, you don't know what you don't know. And so I represented us on the purchase of our second and third homes. And so it was just my nature at that point, like I knew exactly what we were doing. Also, completely different markets. I do have an incredible interest rate on my first home, but it was very, very hard to get because, I mean, I think and God bless my aunt, I think she took us to see probably over 100 homes. And we probably wrote well over 50 offers before one stuck.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yeah. But it is our smartest investment that we've ever made. And honestly, lessons as a landlord, it's been a journey. I will say it's gotten a lot more tedious since I've had a kid. My time is a little bit more. Are you
managing them all?
I do self-manage, yes.
All right.
But thankfully, I have really, really honed in on my processes and my systems. And I think like that is my magic potion when it comes to it. It takes a lot of stress off of me. Of course, when I have somebody move out and I want somebody moving in right away, there's that stress of turnover. But that's also why I am a long-term relationship girl, long-term tenant girl. I have no interest in diving into a short-term rental of it all.
Well, it sounds like you know your lane and you're loyal to that lane, to use that word again. So you've given me 2 different things that have contributed to your success. That second one is transparency around the journey that you've walked as an investor. Could you give us a third one that's contributed to your success?
I would honestly say, not being afraid of staying in one lane.
What do you mean by that?
I love the idea of the one thing. Okay. Love it. I am somebody who kind of has to tap into multiple areas of my business. One, because I get bored.
Okay.
And two, I've seen the impact of social media. But social media is not my only lead generator. I am somebody who goes back to the basics. I'm making calls. I love open houses. So I would say, yeah, those three things are probably my lead gen pillars. Sorry, but I don't door knock. It's just not.
I don't think you have to apologize for that. But
not for me, not in the state of Arizona. But yeah, I would say, yeah, just not staying in one lane necessarily and figuring out how I can leverage all three of those things, but not try and put my hands in every single bucket.
At the same time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That makes sense to me. So tell me a little bit about open houses, because that was something that I figured would come up in our conversation today. And I want to know and try and extract from you if there's anything that's a secret to the success that you've had with open houses, or what it is that contributes to you loving open houses. So like, how did you start? Why did you start doing open houses? And what's your process around open houses?
Yeah, I mean, open houses were one of the first things that I was told to do as an agent. I wasn't ready to make calls yet, because that's one of the other things that they tell you to do right off the bat. I mean, I grew up in a generation where we were told not to talk to strangers. So you're going to tell me
it's back to that private thing.
Go and yes, exactly. Exactly. I mean, real estate has pushed me out of my comfort zone in so many ways. But yeah, I wasn't ready to make calls yet. And so I was like, oh, why don't I just go and sit down at a house and meet strangers? Totally makes sense. But again, I'm much more comfortable face-to-face with people. I love building relationships. And I figured, if I can have a conversation with a stranger coming through the house face-to-face, I can probably get over my fear of calling people eventually. Which is kind of the opposite of what other people do. They're like,
we all need a mind hack.
I will never talk to somebody face-to-face. Keep it on the phones. So yeah, I immediately fell in love with open houses. As far as, my prep for it, I try and keep it as simple as I can. I make sure that I know the area that I'm going to be in. I know of any upcoming listings that are in the area, because if somebody walks through that house, they love the area, but not the house. I want to already know where I could potentially meet them after the open house. So just coming up with little strategies like that is everything. I don't like to have a ton of, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't like to have a ton of things with me at open houses. I will have a sign-in sheet, my business cards, and a speaker playing music.
Got it. Why is that versus like a full setup and spread?
Yeah, I always take myself back to what I felt like going through an open house as a buyer. And it would intimidate me when I was given all of this stuff.
Stacks of information. And
like, here's a buyer guide. Here's a local guide. And I'm like, I'm from Arizona. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I also am very respectful of when people come by and they say they have an agent. And I also know sometimes they're lying. So, that's what I love about open houses is they're going to walk in and say, ugh, we have to talk to another agent. I have an agent. We're just going to look at the house. Cool. And then I foster a rapport. I get a conversation going. And I've had multiple instances where I give them an in of like, hey, let me send you this that's nearby. Or, a reason for me to send them something. And they're so open to it. And then they cross out that fake number that they put on the sign-in sheet, and I get their real number.
Yep.
And, I'll also go tap back into, I know you mentioned you have an agent. Yeah, we just kind of say that because we don't want to be bugged, which I get. So that's why I love open houses so much, is it challenges me to have uncomfortable conversations, but could potentially turn into a lead and a relationship right there.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you've given us a lot of great tips and ways that people could emulate and mimic what you've done to be successful in this business. I want to change gears just a little bit. And you've referenced this a couple of times. You recently became a mom.
Yes.
And that opens up just a whole new adventure, chapter, one that I can't pretend to sit here and understand completely, even though I have 4 kids.
Yeah.
I have never been a mother and an entrepreneur. And so I'm curious, and it is a little more personal, but like, what would you say has been the biggest lesson that your child has taught you about being an entrepreneur at this chapter of your life?
Yeah. Having her has unlocked a whole new me. And I always felt like before I had her, I was constantly listening to things about, moms going into the workforce after having a kid. Because like I said, she came a little bit earlier than I expected, and I'm a planner. So I was terrified when I found out I was pregnant because I wasn't ready. And then I was constantly reminded that nobody is actually ever ready. It happens exactly how and when it's supposed to. And so I just knew I was going to let it ride. Had no other choice. But the further I got into my pregnancy and it came time to make goals for when she was here, I actually revised my goals to be lower than what they had historically been. Each year when I set my goals, they're historically higher. You want to push yourself. And so for me, I was in this bubble of telling myself, well, my time is going to look different. I don't know what my recovery is going to look like. I don't know what help's going to look like. So this is what I see as attainable. And I was so mad at myself for doing that once I was about 6 months postpartum, because at that point, I had already surpassed those goals that I made for myself.
How did you do that?
Again, my team. I had a very traumatic birth experience. And so being in real estate, the idea of maternity leave is just kind of what you make it. And I had told myself that, I really, really wanted to take 30 days away, which to any mom listening to this is probably like, you're freaking crazy. But that's a topic for another day.
That will be our follow-up.
Yeah. I couldn't have gone through my recovery without my team. The day that I had her, it was 3 weeks earlier than it was supposed to be. I had, I think, 2 inspections and a closing that day. And I had to call my clients and be like, hey, so remember when I thought I had 3 more weeks? Well, she's going to be here today. And thankfully, through the traumatic birth experience, her and I were both safe and healthy. But my recovery looked a lot different. And I did experience quite a bit of postpartum depression and anxiety. But again, back to the question of like, how did I do it? I did it because I had a team that had processes in place, even though it happened 3 weeks earlier than we all anticipated. They picked up everything for me. I wasn't even being called or texted, which gave me a little bit of anxiety. Like, are things being taken care of? Okay.
Contributed to the PPD.
Yes. But they were. Yeah. And my clients were so understanding. And once I got out of that and I quickly realized that, okay, I started doing things slowly. I started picking up my admin tasks again because I could do that while she was napping. And then I just knew I was only contributing to the postpartum effects that I was having by not getting back out there. And a lot of that had to do with fear of like who was taking care of my child. So my husband and I had a long conversation about what the idea of bringing in some sort of help would look like. And we didn't necessarily see eye to eye on it at first. And I just pretty much told him, like, I envy you because you get to clock back into work. You get to talk to people. You get to do what you love. I know that I do what I love, but I'm not doing it. I'm not going to be able to do it at the rate that I was previously. And I knew it was always going to look different, but we live in a very hot state. My car is basically my office. I have a newborn. I can't bring her everywhere with me. That's not fair to her. Mm-hmm. It's not fair to my clients. You know, of course, nobody ever minds seeing a cute newborn, but my attention needs to be on my clients when I'm with my clients, and my attention needs to be on my daughter when I'm with my daughter.
Yep.
And that's something that I knew was going to be very, very important to me. And so I leaned on a few moms that I know in the business, and the bringing in of childcare was always like the first thing they said. Best money they've ever spent. You know, I got advice on how to vet people out, and we ended up hiring an amazing nanny for a few months. And after 1 week, my husband was like, this is the best money we've ever spent, because he immediately saw like my spark
come back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I said I've never been a mom who's also an entrepreneur, right? But I have been the husband to someone who is. And, you know, I was, you know, the bonehead who is like very against it and all that. And I can attest like the same type of thing. And the way that you approach that with your husband sounds like a very, like, if I were him, it would start to make sense, like this idea of being able to give my full attention to my clients. Like, oh, I fully get that, mm-hmm. right? And so I am, one, super happy that you guys are both healthy, you and your daughter, and two, that you've walked that journey. I've seen how dark it can be, and come out the other side, and now you can encourage and pour into other women that are experiencing the same thing. And I know that's your type of mentality.
Yeah.
I want to also ask, like, did the time where you were recovering, did some of the things that you learned, particularly about how the team picked up pieces for you, and even with how your clients behaved during that time, mm-hmm. were there any things that you learned that you have carried into how you do business today?
Yes, I am somebody who was very guilty of feeling like I couldn't let a client wait more than 5 minutes for a response from me. And I think the biggest piece that I've learned since she's been in my life is that things can wait. People will not punish you for it. Everybody understands, even if they don't have kids. You know, they have things in their life that come before what we're talking about.
And how do you have to convey that to people so that they do understand?
I mean, generally people know me from some sort of social media. And one thing about my social media is it's not just real estate content. I am a firm believer in like your social media. You don't need 2 separate pages. You need one page that has everything, because that is you. That's you. And people need to know you. So she is all over. I mean, she's the cutest kid alive.
There's almost a preset expectation already because of how you communicate it through social media.
Yes. Yeah. Also, you know, an important conversation that I have when I have a new client is I explain the process of our team and the setup. I explain that, you know, if I can't make it to a showing, my schedule will not be the deterrent for that. I have backup, and somebody from my team will pick up. They're totally fine with that. You know, I let them know about my transaction coordinator of, hey, she's going to help us get to the finish line so that I can be in front of you whenever I need to. our director of ops. Like, I explain exactly what it looks like to work with me beforehand, and it puts into perspective of it's not just going to be me. I can't do it all. And I think leverage has been the biggest lesson that I've learned since I've had her. I'm working on, leaning on more, but that's been a game changer for me.
Yeah, I love that you started to learn that and have continued to cultivate that in your career, because I mean, with all the success that you've had in just 5 short years, like, you're going to continue to have this like massively successful trajectory.
That's the plan.
I'm excited for you. I'm excited that we get to be a small part of that journey, that I get to see your growth as well. And there's a lot more topics we could dive into. For sake of time, I want to transition us into the last segment of the show. 3, 2, 1, action. It's the same 3 questions pretty much I've asked every guest since I started this show 6 years ago. So question number 1. What book has been most impactful on your life and why?
Ooh. Okay. I have 2.
Okay.
Unreasonable Hospitality.
I love that one.
Fantastic book. And The Defining Decade.
I haven't read that one.
So Emily gave me that one, I think, as I was entering into college.
Okay.
And they have different versions of it now to, keep up with the times. But it was basically an entire book about your 20s. Mm-hmm. And I loved it. I read it before I went to college, and then I read it after I graduated. Same material, spoke to me in a different way.
For sure. I'll make sure that we link up to both of those in the show notes. I'll have to check Defining Decade out. I think, and even just hearing the title and your short description of it, I just think, like, I met this kid the other day, 18. His dad's in real estate. He's getting licensed. And I just had to say to the kid, man, I didn't start till I was 27. Like, and if I could have started at 18 and just worked my butt off until 28, that is legacy changing, like, family dynamics.
Yeah.
And so I've got to imagine that's a great book. So thanks for recommending that one. The second question, and I say that these are mostly the same questions I've asked everyone because last year I actually changed this one up a little bit. I am a huge believer that gratitude is the highest energy. And I used to ask people, who has been most impactful on your life or business, and why? The change to it is, I want you to directly address the person who has been most impactful on your life or business, and I want you to actually thank them. So you're not talking to me, you're talking to them. Who is that person, and would you thank them?
Do I look at the camera?
Sure.
Okay. I the first person that immediately comes to mind, Emily. Thank you for always seeing what I can't see in myself and pushing me past my limits time and time again. I would not be where I am personally and professionally without your guidance. And I am so excited for what this year has in store for us. I'm so lucky to be in business with you. I'm so blessed to have you as a mentor. And I am going to spend the rest of my life thanking you.
That's awesome. Thank you for doing that. The third and final question is ideas. We can have so many ideas, and I'm guilty of that, but it's all about action, taking action, going all in on something. So we're sitting here recording this in 2026. The market is what it is. The landscape of the world is what it is. Mm-hmm. If you were talking to another agent right now, I don't care what skill level, how long they've been in the business, but you just said there's one thing that they had to just push the chips all in on. Like, what would that one thing be and why?
Take time to figure out where you want to be in this business. So if that's that you want to be a solo agent, fine. but figure out how you're going to get there strategically. Find a good mentor. If you have any interest in being on a team, go out and research who is breaking barriers in the city that you want to excel in. So yeah, I would say like that. That's because I feel like one of the first things that people ask me is, are you doing it on your own or are you on a team? And I couldn't imagine doing it on my own. So I feel like, sure, if you need to tap into seeing what both are like, totally get that. But I have a feeling people end up liking teams a whole lot more than doing it solo.
I think we all think we can do a little bit more on our own than we really can.
Yeah.
And together, everyone achieves more.
Yeah.
I love that piece of advice. Courtney, people have gotten a taste and a small picture of who you are, and I know they're going to want more. So what's the best way for them to reach out to you or find more of your content, things like that?
I am primarily on Instagram as Courtney Weston Realtor. That's pretty much it. I mean, Perfect. I tap into a little bit of Facebook here and there, which you can just find me as Courtney Weston. I am dabbling into the TikTok world.
Okay.
Haven't quite honed in on it as much, but I would say primarily Instagram is where you can find me.
All right. And we'll link that up in the show notes as well. Thank you so much for this conversation. I felt like you shared a lot of tactical advice that people who are maybe young in their career can tap into themselves, but not just young in the career. I think you shared so many valuable principles around team and accountability and acknowledging who it is that have helped you get to where you are, that we can all learn so much from this. So I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Guys, this has been another episode of Real Talk with David. As I like to say, go play all in.